Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and a member show to the GMP Morning Show.
Olá Bom Dia ALEGRIA, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, a live stream and podcast. Good morning to you. It is the 3rd of March. Yes, we're into March. Março here in Portugal. 3rd of March, 2025. Wow, we made it. Look, I haven't actually been hacked, Jackie. If you're referring to the comment that I was sent just recently, and I was thinking, oh, this is so exciting. We don't often get correspondence in other languages. Turns out, I think it is a request for some money. If we study this message here, and if anybody can help us with this, I'd be most grateful. But I think there is the number 100 in there somewhere, which I think is a petition for a certain amount of money. Oh, 80 now. It's been downgraded. But I don't understand that. And forgive me, I could have pasted it into Google Translate, and maybe I will later. But I think in some ways, it might be the recommendation of a certain physician or a money-making scheme, I'm afraid to say. Diego was in early. Good morning to you, Jackie, by the way. Bom dia, Carl and Gumpers, from a bright, mild Belfast, 8 degrees, be 11 later, but a high coming in midweek from Portugal. It'll be 15 by Thursday. We'll be barbecuing in Belfast this weekend. Yes, and I saw a fantastic meme about England. And now it's the 1st of March, and the barbecues will be being dusted down. And yes, people will be determined to get their shirts off and out into the garden whilst their hands are still blue. Tell me how the weather is where you are. We'll have a quick look at it here in Portugal. I had a brief look on your behalf a few moments ago, only to see mainly clouds covering the skies. I've had hail here on Saturday afternoon. Hail the size of large peas coming out of the sky, and the sun was catching them. It was amazing. There was quite the sort of thunderstorm. Maybe it was Friday afternoon. Anyway, in the last few days, there's been hail here on the Silver Coast, and it was silver in the sky. It was quite beautiful, seeing the sun catching the little balls of ice. Quite smarted a little bit when they hit you on the back of the head as well. Anyway, how are you doing this morning? Funny old times, aren't they? Here on the 3rd of March, 2025. Bom dia, Campus, e feliz segunda. Bem-vindo a uma nova semana from Nova Semana. I made it sound African there, didn't I? And like going to the savannah for a moment. Coach Turner, enjoying 11 degrees later in Hertfordshire today, as well as Deagle over there in Belfast. Off to Cambridge this morning to do some filming and a little lunch. Have a great day. Oh, sounds great. Wonderful. And a bon dia. Here's a great... Here's a great weather forecast for you. Well, observation rather than forecast, I think. A bloody freezing Berkhamsted. Yes, there are places in England called Berkhamsted, everybody. Isn't that great? Good morning, everyone from Gemini. Hello, Gemini. And Sarah's here. And Michael. Hello, how are you, Michael? And I used to write like that when I was 3. Oh, don't shoot me. Yeah, right. We are cold here in the UK, says Gemini. Thanks for sending. I thought you were in the Algarve, Gemini. Here in Madeira, maybe your heart is in the Algarve. Here in Madeira, people do walk on the pavement since there aren't sidewalks. Ah, very good. And João Ernesto, with his more characteristic Bom dia, Portugal, and from the animal kingdom this morning, as I stepped out to feed the cat this morning. It's a covered area where the cat stops yowling if I give her a little bit of food just outside the front door. And that's also to stop the dogs eating her food. As I was feeding her noise, her yowling gave way to the joyful noise unto the creator this morning, as well as ours here, of a hoopoe bird. Woot, 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 woot. Woot, woot, woot. Have you heard the hoopoe yet this year? For me, it is a sign of spring. It's like the cuckoo, really. But what a fabulous bird it is to see, and a wonderful bird to hear in the distance as well. 5 minutes past 8, at around 20 past, we'll talk to James. Last week in Ericeira, if I remember correctly. Yes, goodbye, Ericeira. And at 8:40, Tig James here with an update for Brits, post-Brexit Brits. And often a lot of what she has to say is of interest to others as well, wherever they've come from in the world. And even Portuguese people with the view on what it's like to be a post-Brexit Brit here in Portugal. And the clip that I took from the last time she was on the show considering whether the UK might re-enter the EU, was quite popular, as you might imagine, as a short on our YouTube channel. Had to run back to my central heating. I'll be there when the weather is better. In the Algarve, wow, preferring to go back to the don't we do that the other way around, Gemini? Don't you come to Portugal in the winter? The UK winter. Anyway, it's entirely your business. I just don't understand that at the moment. Why would you go back to the UK? Oh, to get really hot with your central heating. I mean, that's only costing you about 500 quid a day as well, isn't it? With the gas prices over there. Anyway, maybe I shouldn't have reminded you about that. A very good morning to you, wherever you are, whether it be Berkhamsted or somewhere else in the world. Now, all sorts to show you. We are mid-Carnival. We had a lovely time enjoying many of the features and benefits of San Martino de Porto's Carnival furnishings and provision. It's really nice. Great to see you yesterday, Scott and Michael, as well, here in San Martino de Porto. And yeah, well, the children were photographed with owls. It was fantastic. Really good job. And I felt, well, shout out to the stall holders and all the wonderful people working in San Martino de Porto on the Carnival, given that there was a thunderstorm and it peed down several times. But I guess they're used to that. But sorry to see them enduring such conditions here. In March, which should be spring here, April is the month where we allow rain, not January, not December, January, February, and March. Okay, enough moaning about the weather. We'll come back and do some more moaning about the weather a little bit later on. Munson's mailbag has attracted this comment. Hello, where can I get the... I think this might be somebody from New York because they're calling it social security. Number, where can I get the social security number? Thanks. Probably a typo. From Paradise City. Is that an American place, holiday resort? Hello, where can I get the social security number? Thanks. I'll go back to that a little bit later on. As well as, should we talk briefly about the thinker in Albufeira? Why at any time in human history would you want to apply yourself to thinking about the problems of the world? There's a lot of material. And how much caffeine do you think is in an espresso shot compared to a brewed coffee? Not that we drink much brewed coffee, it has to be said, here in Portugal. Big news, well, a few news stories this morning. The big one, though, of course, whilst our attention is being, how do I put this, encouraged for the last 4 days on one particular news item. The world has quite a few billion people in it. There's quite a lot going on, and yet the world's media seems entirely fixated on one particular meeting of 3 quite large egoed gentlemen meeting in quite a lavish room in a certain part of America. That's another way of representing that story. And I think it is a story, by the way, a bit of reality laundering going on, just to prove that other things have been going on in the world as well. Let me present to you what's been going on here in Portugal. The Portugal's PM addressed the nation. Actually, I did a little bit on this over at the Portugal Club. With a great deal of love and thanks, acknowledgement to Portugal Decoded. What you'll see if you have a look on your screen. Oh, and our Bom Dia Daily deal. You can join the Portugal Club for a free 7-day trial now. Well done, school, for doing that. Your deal is, if you want to just see what I'm talking about here, go sign up at gmpvip.com and you can enjoy that for 7 days. And if you're feeling really generous, you can get a discount on annual membership, 10 months for the price of 12, and you'll be supporting the Good Morning Portugal endeavour. Anyway, anywho, Portugal's PM addresses nation. Did you know this was happening on Friday? Your attention may have been magnetized elsewhere by the global media. Portugal's PM addresses nation, refuses to resign, but pledges not to be involved in companies with business ties to his family. Well, that seems very honourable, doesn't it? I shall not be involving myself in deals that might that might positively affect my family's bank balance and their business activities, because I am a prime minister of a country. Whilst there's something in the air, isn't there? I mean, Bob Dylan a few decades ago was saying something was blowing in the wind. And I suggest you don't sniff too hard on some of the things that are blowing in the wind at the moment. But come on, the times they are changing, aren't they? Whilst many of the world's leaders have the rapt attention of the global media, here in Portugal, the Prime Minister went before the Portuguese people to address his own domestic crisis in confidence. The matter is excellently covered in Portugal Decoded's special briefing. The PM PM's address to the nation, which looks at how Montenegro addressed the nation over allegations of a conflict of interest involving his family's business. Now, there are calls for his resignation, and this drama was unfolding on Friday evening, and maybe it will make it to our crime file, which we also have over here at the Good Morning Portugal Club. What do you think about that? What I think is interesting, you may live here as a Portuguese resident and you may have had no idea that that was going on whatsoever. Let me just put the link to that. I do urge you. It's a free service, Portugal Decoded on Substack. Very, very good indeed. Let me just put in a simple link to what's going on at Portugal Decoded. But it was a special, actually, a special briefing, the PM's address to the nation, and they'll tell you all about it. Last Thursday, for example, just as we were finalizing our Friday briefing, it said over at Portugal Decoded, reports surfaced that Solverde, that's a nice name for a company, isn't it? Green Sun, a company managing casinos and hotels in Portugal, continues to pay €4,500 per month to Spinum Viva, which also sounds like a great name for a company. The kind of name that maybe covers up what's really going on. It's not like Acme Widgets, is it? Like we make widgets. It's Spinum Viva, everybody. We do all sorts of things. A company owned by PM Luis Montenegro's family. While the potential political fallout was immediately clear, details were still scarce and time was too short to fully adapt our weekly newsletter. So the special briefing over at Portugal Decoded has a highly gravitational address to the nation from the PM, and I'll put the link to that Substack into the comments now and find out how you're doing. Okay, there you go. Portugal Decoded at substack.com. Not at as in like an email address, but that's where if you go to Substack and put in Portugal Decoded, you will see that over there. Right, okay. Did I have that on the screen at all while I was talking to you about it? Maybe I didn't. There's a quick flash of it there for you there right now. Who doesn't like a quick flash first thing in the morning? Actually, most people don't, Carl. Hugh, good morning to you, Hugh, and to Bob as well. And the continuing adventures of whether to winter in the Algarve or not. No winter is in UK, summer is in the Algarve. That is an unusual way to do it, I have to say. So a really cold winter and a really hot summer possibly there, Gemini. Thank you. Old pound holding up against the euro. The old pound. I feared a drop when Trump threatened tariffs, but it's 121 to every euro. So every thank you for decoding this. You get 21 euros free. That's one way of looking at it. 500, 605, or 1,000, 1210. Who doesn't like free money first thing in the morning or any other time of day? No idea. As you say, mind was elsewhere, says Hugh. Yeah, this is the Prime Minister of this country. Was like begging for his political life on Friday. Meanwhile, does it not bother you that our minds are being magnetized and jammed elsewhere by another matter that is being that is tantalizing us on the screens and every other place? I mean, this is, I'm not sort of mentioning it specifically or talking about it, but that Oval Office meeting, first line media, and then all the pundits and commentators and podcasts for the whole weekend. And I notice it's carrying on this morning as well. A bon dia to you, Mel. Have we got a well-being tip this morning? Nice to see you, and to you, Pam, as well. Good morning to you. In other news then, who's this that we see in the Portugal news this morning? Thanks, Deagle, for this tip-off. And it's lovely to see this young lady. I'm sure she won't mind me calling her that in a somewhat patronizing way this morning. Pioneering migration advisory services in Portugal. Who might this be? A beautiful photograph of the lady in question here, and a little bit of information about her. Some of you will know her. She has an uncanny resemblance to my eldest daughter, I have to say as well. Over the past decade, assessoria migratoria, the thing that nobody tends to say, we call them EI, they're called A. There's a lot of confusion with AI at the moment. To give them their correct pronunciation, and Gilda's company and colleagues has been at the forefront of supporting individuals and businesses with international relocation. Did you know this about Gilda Pereira? I am the granddaughter and daughter of immigrants, and my whole life has been spent between two countries, I think I should say, Portugal and Angola. Gilda Pereira, founder of Assessoria Migratoria, told the Portugal News, from a young age, the theme of migration has always fascinated me. Some of my earliest childhood memories were of imagining myself working in New York, which I later associated with the United Nations headquarters. I think you're probably a little bit too outspoken and pragmatic to be on the UN staff there, Gilda. But who knows? As I envisioned being in a multicultural environment where many languages spoken, she recounted. You're off this now, isn't it? As a teenager, I pursued languages, studying English, French, Spanish, German, and 3 years of Russian. Good heavens. Didn't know that. Why don't you tell me something about yourself that other Gumpers might not know? Yes, you. Is there something like that, a factoid about Gilda, that you have about you that others might be surprised to hear on the Good Morning Portugal show this morning? I eventually graduated in law, not because I aspired to be a lawyer, says Gilda, but because it was a versatile and broad course. Keeping your options open. Very good. She added, in 2018, Pereira received an invitation from a consultancy firm to work in Luanda, Angola. At the time, I was 27 years old and had always felt a strong connection with Africa, so I accepted the challenge. Right, I'll put the link to that if you want to read more about the wonderful Gilda Pereira, who you can see with me on a Thursday evening on the Expats Portugal Town Hall. Another great picture of Gilda as well, with the great emblem of Portuguese emigration and migration, and us lot landing here, right? The swallows returning and flying out of the country. There's the link to the interview with her in the Portugal news, everybody. Right. What's being said in the comments here? When all of mainstream media worldwide is only a few minutes, they can manipulate with a constant massage. No, and sadly not a constant message. I look behind the scenes for what led up to the moment and what they aren't saying. Yes, it goes back decades and centuries, really, doesn't it, Bob? Which might be quite useful, mightn't it? To have a slightly broader view of things rather than a very persistent focus. Yes, the world is a stage. All the world's a stage, and all the men merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, or is it the other way around? Hopefully the other way around. Always watch what is going on in any country when a drama takes all headlines for days. Is that your well-being tip? More importantly, 21 euros buys a lot more wine in Portugal than in the UK. Yes, absolutely, more importantly. And join us tonight when we'll be trying out the wine ninjas have been researching single grape rosé wines, which we'll be savouring tonight. Join us on the screen at 8 and then come for a lock-in and drink more and put the world to rights from 8:30 this evening. Munson and the Geezer also at 7. I think we'll have one or two things to say about the political situation. Me and Tony Bryant at 7 this evening. Oh, and Frank is back. We're going to have a late night phone-in. Frank Answers. Do you see what I did there? Frank Answers, our wonderful mate who has been with us in the Gumper community right from the beginning. He was an early co-creator of the Man Cave as well in 2020. And we welcome him back to our screen for some Frank Answers. He's like an agony uncle. He has his own agonies, and from his own agony experience, he will address any questions you have for him. Send them in by text or call in on 913-590-303. Shock news then. In the UK, Mrs. T, Mrs. Turner that would be, paid 50 quid for a bottle of wine in a Finsbury Park bar on Saturday. Do you know what? You could almost fly to Portugal, buy a bottle of wine, and fly home again if you get the flights right for less than 50 quid. Isn't that amazing? Get a great under a tenner bottle of wine here in Portugal and 20 quid flights. The jobs are good. And that is unbelievable. James can buy 3 bottles of wine for 10 euros. He's had to drink them all though, because he doesn't want to be carrying them from Ericeira up to Espinho this week. Maybe he's drinking now to minimize the packing. Let's find out let's find out now. It's 20 past, everybody. Raj's Indian family in Portugal. Bon dia to you. Coach Ian, does a 50 quid bottle of wine give you a better hangover? Asked Eagle. I would want my own grape tree in a vineyard for 50 quid. The well-being tip: if you can successfully implement just one new good habit each month, that's not much to ask, is it? You will have 12 better habits after a year with sustaining power. Nice. Thank you very much for that. Well-being tips, we're loving them, and we'll stay with the from well-being to well-being, of course, and mindfulness with James. How to cope and face the not just sometimes, the ups and downs, the whole picture of moving to Portugal from his own experience, and particularly at the moment moving from Ericeira to Espinho. So let's find out how he's doing, but not until we've heard his intro music. See him after this.
Bom dia!
Hey, hold on a minute. The cowboy hat is still up on the wall. You are moving this week, aren't you?
Yeah, when you said it, he's moving right now or something. It's like, no, not right this instant, this week, but yes, I'm moving.
Yeah, and because you've only got 3 things to pack, you don't have to panic. You don't have to panic just yet, do you?
I almost grabbed a big cardboard box to have it standing up like I was getting ready to go. I said, no, that's too much.
Whilst drinking a bottle of wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there. Wow, James. So how is it? How tudo bem.
Muito bem. Obrigado.
Excelente. And how's the carnival been in your part of town or the country?
My part of Ericeira, which is 4.5 kilometers from the village center, is basically nothing. It's just
goodness, right.
Beautiful, generally quiet neighborhood, with the exception of the dogs that love to go off for no apparent reason many times a day. So yeah, I'm not experiencing Carnival at this moment. And I'll be arriving in Espinho, where I think it would be more apparent, simply because everything is closer to the center of town there. But I don't know what's going on by Wednesday, so I won't be arriving there till Wednesday evening. So
I think it'll all be done and dusted by then, and all that will be left, as is often the case in Portugal, is a few. It's almost sort of like Native American trackers have been there. There's barely a trace of their presence, apart from my observation of festas and Carnival and such public celebrations. Is there'll be quite a few cable ties, or zip ties as I think you call them, strewn around the grass and on the floor, which have been snipped whilst they've taken stuff down. And then as you walk around the site, you will see a half-drunk bottle of beer on somebody's windowsill or in a doorway.
Half drunk, not half drunken.
Well, that'll be the owner.
Drunken bottle. That would be the guy who's asleep next to that half drunk
bottle. The half-drunken man is somewhere else, but his half-drunk bottle will have been left as he made his way home on the Tuesday night.
Well, I think when you mentioned the day after, I instantly got an image of a bunch of people just sleeping on the sidewalk and on the sea wall, and just people asleep.
Well, that'll be Torres
fatigue.
Oh yeah, that'll be Torres Vedras you're talking about there. We will have pictures to share, but don't expect to get anything done. I think basically the bureaucracy, the machinery of state has seized up or is focused elsewhere for today and tomorrow. And normal business will resume somewhat bleary-eyed on Wednesday, I suspect, which is, of course, when you move, James. So how is it going? How are your loins girded for such an experience?
Well, yeah, they're pretty girded. They're girded.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because every move I've ever made was an entire household of stuff, including furniture. And so, like at least a week in advance, it was like the whole house had stuff on the floor, trying to get organized for how I was going to pack, lots of boxes that were getting filled up. And I have that energy. It's like, I need it. And it's like, you got a suitcase, a carry-on, a backpack, and 4 boxes. Like, you'll be okay. You can wait till Tuesday. We're planning to load the car up Tuesday evening. I'll just spend Tuesday packing, and then I'll, put it in the car, and we'll leave Wednesday afternoon, and it'll be done.
Okay.
So, but the energy is like, I should be doing something.
Yeah, of course. Because it's down, isn't it, as one of the great moves in life, isn't it? One of the great upheavals of life is moving home.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, my studio is so small, I can't do what I've typically done, which is just lay everything out. So I can, in my mind, organize how I'm going to put it in boxes in the most efficient way. And so that's just going to have to wait till the day so that it's not in the way of today and tomorrow. You know, I'm not tripping over things.
Yeah.
So it's a new move. It's certainly not. I've made well over 30 moves in my adult life, so I know how to move. And this is not a complicated one. It shouldn't be a difficult one, but the energy is really primed to. I moved an entire household twice in 2 days, once in my life.
Seriously, why? You on the run from the police? Like that?
Myself.
By yourself?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I actually built a piano dolly for it so that I could roll it, because the thing was, what, 500 pounds, so 250 kilos or so.
I bet you're glad you're not moving your piano on Wednesday, aren't you?
Yes, I've dropped a lot of stuff out of my life, especially getting here. But with the last three moves or so, I've been like really paring down. So by the time it's time to come to Portugal, there wasn't a whole lot left to do.
And can you play the piano?
I used to be able to play one or two pieces.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's something. I did invite everybody to share something we might not know about you. I mean, not you specifically, about oneself. And there's one that came out unsolicited there. You can play the piano.
Yeah, well, I sang for 4 years in high school.
Did you?
And my choir director was so inspirational to me. He really was. You know, when people talk about who's the one teacher who really had an impact on your life, he's that guy, Mr. Hansen.
How lovely.
And so I thought that I wanted to pursue music education. I wanted to become a music teacher like him, but I didn't really have the background short of my choir experience. I barely even knew how to read music, so it would be quite a little path to go. And learning piano was going to be key to me to understanding music theory. Oh, and that wasn't even intentional.
That was brilliant.
So there's one thing you didn't know about me, but you could, if I just went into the various jobs I've had in my life, that would be one new thing. So there's a lot of them.
Yes, and I'm thinking of what was that great movie, Mr. Somebody's Opus, about the inspirational music teacher.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was kind of Dead Poet Society vibe about it, wasn't it? I'm sure we will all be told.
The music version.
Yes, the music version of Dead Poet Society. Fantastic.
Not the musical.
We need to write a musical. That's why that nearly happened, wasn't it? It was an erotic novel. It should have been a musical with you as the musical.
An erotic musical.
Okay, you're on. But you're busy this week, I know. Maybe start that next week. 2 questions and a third from John here about this move. Have you some sort of formality about saying goodbye to Ericeira? Have you visited some of your old
man, that is so great, because I almost forgot. But this week I've been working quite not hard, but a lot of time being put into an episode that I considered kind of late. I'm trying to be like a few weeks ahead, so I don't have to cram every week to get something done by Friday. But this week it was like, I could do my move to Espinho. It's like, but then the move kept getting later and later, so that wouldn't even be done till Wednesday, and then I'd have 2 days to put all that together for an episode on Friday. So that's too much. I'm retired. I don't need homework and have to cram for the test, right? But I said, well, what do I want to do? What I want to do? And this was sort of the middle of last week. And I said, this is perfect. I'm going to do a tribute and farewell to Ericeira.
Yeah.
And so I put that together this Friday. And I am really happy with what I put together. I think, to me, my experience was the best episode I put together. So I'm excited about it. I really appreciate you bringing it up without even knowing. But yes, there's definitely going to be a tribute and a goodbye that gives special treatment to Luisa and Sidonio.
That's nice.
For the 3 years that we've become friends and family.
and part of the show, because we feel like we know them as well now.
Yeah.
No, not many people knew a Sidonio until you appeared on the screen and brought them with you, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. So I feel really good about it. It's the first time I've put music to the entire thing. It's the first time I haven't spoken through the entire thing. So it's all visuals with music, a lot of video. There's a lot. You'll particularly enjoy this year's Ericeira last September.
Oh yeah.
Because I knew I was running my channel at the time, so I was filming it, saying, okay, I can use this for content at some point in the future. So I've got several minutes of just filming the festival.
Nice.
People sampling, eating, music going in the background. You can hear the talk and the babble. It's just quite fun, and it feels to me like you're actually there, walking around through it, kind of like that. So, and that takes a big chunk of the episode, which surprisingly I thought it was going to be well over 30 minutes, but I managed to get it to about 22 minutes, which is, I think most people who know nothing about it, they'll see 22 and they go, okay, well, that's probably not too long. But if it said 30, it's like, too long, never mind. I'll go watch something.
Tell me
else.
about it.
Yeah.
It's okay. Look, it was Mr. Holland's opus, and I think it was Richard
it is,
Reeves,
yes.
wasn't it, in 1995? Great film. Great movie right there. And John's other input here. James, I'm curious what your background will be in the new location. You must find a way to still hang that hat somewhere, not a cowboy hat, behind your left shoulder. Is that going to be possible, do we think?
I don't know. I'll have to work that out because, a lot of it has to do with what lighting is available. Because I don't have one of those little lighting hoops to just put right on my laptop in front of me.
Yeah, that sounds much nicer than ring light lighting hoop, I've got to say. Yes.
So yeah, that's yet to be determined. It occurred to me that on a given Monday morning, if I wanted to go for coffee, I found a location in Espinho that I really like. Cool. For two really great reasons. One is they're open at 8 in the morning, and I'm up early, and most places aren't serving coffee till at least 9 or 9:30, and sometimes 10. It's like, I don't want to wait. I just want to go get my coffee when I'm up and walking around first thing in the morning.
Yes.
So this place is open at 8, which is really helpful for me. But in addition to that, it's actually located, its foundation is on top of the sand of the beach, with a glass ceiling to floor glass facing the ocean.
Wow.
So I can have my coffee at the ocean at 8 in the morning. It's like, wow,
lovely.
How much better does it get than that? So
almost with your bare feet in the sand. That is lovely. What a wonderful thing. Well, we would like to see a familiar recreation of the studio. Because you are, you're a fixture of the Good Morning Portugal show. You're like our comfortable slippers that we've had for years.
Nice.
I hope you don't take that badly.
Well, as long as I keep my feet clean.
Yes,
or you keep your feet clean if I'm your slipper or whatever.
You are our old pair of slippers that we don't want to throw away. Right. The other question I have for you about this, and Pam's on a similar wavelength here. I think when you move within Portugal, the first place you lived stays with you as your Portuguese hometown. That's a lovely idea, isn't it?
Yes.
So you'll think of Ericeira forever as your hometown, perhaps.
Yes. Well, when I say Ericeira has my heart, and it always will. It's the place I chose to be. It's the place where I established family. It's I've been here longer than I ever thought I would be in my first landing. So yes, that's absolutely true.
And what's your advice for those who might make a second, third, or more moves in Portugal as a foreigner? Anything that's been different with this move compared to your other 30, presumably in the United States?
Well, the current two moves, the first one to Portugal and Ericeira, and now this one, were substantially different because the reasons were different, and the feeling arriving, the sense of belonging. The culture that just embraces you is just so different than what I was experiencing when I left the United States. So that is one. If you're making that big move, it's like, really look at why you're moving, and don't be moving to get away from something you don't like.
Yes.
Move towards something that works better for you. You know,
Yep.
that's the thing. That's the thing. Because if you're trying to run away from things that feel bad in your life, whether it's people or a country or a specific location, you're
Yes.
just going to bring it all with you. It's just
Right.
going to follow you. So it's not going to work. You're going to become, once you get that infatuation phase that we've talked about, once you
Yes.
sort of move through that, then your real life is going to catch up. And if you were unhappy there and you haven't resolved that, you're going to be unhappy wherever you go.
That's a fugitive mindset compared to a sort of visionary mindset.
Or adventure or whatever, you know, discovery. It's a very different motivation.
Yes.
So that move, my recommendation there is do your best to figure out where you think you'd like to land, and plan to be there for at least a year.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it was great. I discovered along the way, it was great to be in that place for 2 years, because then I had all my administrative stuff done.
Yes.
And I could move wherever I wanted to go. Now I'd have to do it again, but I wouldn't have to be thinking about it and then changing it while I'm in the middle of trying to get it set up. Then I got to change it now because I moved it. I just never figured out why some people move every 3 months as soon as they get here when they're planning to stay. It's like, stop! You're just creating a lot of work for yourself.
That's true, isn't it? But I can understand why people do that, because it's such an exciting country to look around, and you are in a new place, like a dog with several tails or a child in a sweet shop. So do that, maybe have a base camp of at least a year, but people will be saying, James, hold on a minute, it can't possibly take 2 years to do all your bureaucracy. That's a lifetime. However,
well, it took me 2 years to get my driver's license.
yes, exactly. So as shocking and weird as that might sound, to get yourself settled administratively, bureaucratically, it can take a year or two, and those years fly by, don't they, mate?
They do.
They really
do. And the other thing about 1 or 2 years is I don't think anyone should decide to leave until they've been here for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
You know, so get settled in, commit to, it's not even really long term, but for more than 6 months to decide whether you love or hate a place. Just, it's kind of like I'm going to decide whether I get married in the first 3 months of the relationship. It's like, no, you need the challenges, you need the joy, you need to experience the broader picture, all of those things before you make this, you know, the commitment for the rest of my life. So
yes,
I recommend that. You know, don't make any moves, don't decide to leave, or, you know, I mean, you may be feeling it, but stick it out, see what happens. If it continues and you're at the end of 2 years, maybe even 3 years, and you just feel like I'm not feeling it, I can't do it, then make your move. I think you'll be a lot happier with your move.
That
certainly won't have any regrets.
We did do the stages of moving and infatuation and likening it to a relationship. We didn't do the stalking, though, did we? We didn't do the somebody throwing themselves on Portugal and sort of grabbing Portugal by the ankles and never letting her go in a weird kind of way. But that happens too, doesn't it? That sort of extreme infatuation, you might say.
Yeah, well, I think there are people who want the adventure all the time. And I've said before, with no judgment, it's like, well, for you then, what's probably going to work best is to be on perpetual vacation and do move every 3 months, go somewhere every 3 months. Just keep moving, keep having your vacation, which is great. It's a great feeling. But you're not going to be able to sustain that after 3 or 4 or 5 months in one place. Your vacation goes away. That infatuation begins to subside. When it comes to moving, once you've been here, I highly recommend having a good idea of the next place you want to be in Portugal. And it took me a year to make that decision. It was not something, Espinho is great, I'm going to move there. It's like, oh, this is worth exploring. I'll need to come back, and increasing periods of time, get a feel for it. What's it like? Yes, and the main pull for me is I wanted to be near the ocean. So I knew that. So looking along the ocean, I wanted transportation. It was the things I learned in the 2 years prior that created the checklist of what would really work for me in Portugal.
Very good.
And when I got to Espinho, I was looking at my checklist, go check, 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 check. Okay, this checks all the boxes. Yeah. But then there was this tremendous emotional pull for all the reasons we've talked about. Plus, Ericeira is beautiful. I see the beautiful photos taken in the Algarve, and I go, oh, those are beautiful. But man, Ericeira, that's my reaction to it. So I have this very strong emotional attachment to Ericeira. So it's like, do I do that or do I do the check boxes? It all work for me that Ericeira does not have a lot of those checks.
Okay.
It's got beauty and emotional connection and all this stuff, but it's 2 hours to Lisboa, which is the nearest transportation hub. It's, you know, just all these
you
other.
Can get to Lisbon you can get to Lisbon probably in the same time from Espinho, can't you? With a different sort of connection.
Yeah, it's a little longer. It's, you know, but it's only an hour longer. You know, I'm three or four times farther away, and I can get there with only an hour addition traveling because I can walk to a train in 5 minutes.
Very good. Right, we need to talk Tig, and we wish you well with your move. And this time next week, we'll be talking to you in your new place, I hope.
Live from Espinho.
Live from Espinho. Maybe the not cowboy hat will be hung up in a similar place with some familiar backdrop. But we shall see. But we do wish you the very best with your move.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, we can tell that. So have a good one. Bon voyage. And até próxima. I will see you again.
Yeah, and please do catch this next episode. It's really special.
Which will be out on Friday. Yeah. Busy week, moving Wednesday, new video out on An Old Guy in Europe on Friday. Thanks, James. Have a great week. Especially
always my pleasure.
Okay,
see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. And that always on holiday mindset, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because if you are up against maybe a £2,000 rent in Portugal, in the capital, you could probably make quite a few hotels an offer for €2,000 a month, couldn't you? And you could stay in cool places for £2,000 a month. However, it is quite useful, I think, to have a fixed address in Portugal. It's quite difficult to do things and be a resident without a permanent address. In fact, impossible or illegal, maybe as well. Let's find out about such matters with Tig James. Did I mention MBE? Here she is. Hello, Tig. How are you? Olá Bom Dia.
Morning.
How are you?
Yeah, I can't do it without an address. Have to have an address.
As attractive as that idea is, living out of a suitcase and being perpetually on vacation in the way that James mentioned, you've got to have an address, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Permanent address. Yeah.
All right. So you'd have to have a base camp then, and you still could do that, but you're going to need to at least rent a little studio flat or some permanent address somewhere.
Something, yeah, with because you need to produce a rental contract or house deeds.
Right, of course.
It's interesting though, because somebody was talking to me about this the other day, because they were having problems getting a social security number for their son, their adult son in his late 20s.
Yep.
But you can actually, if you're living, say they've come over and they're living with parents can write a letter and say, yeah, he is actually living with us.
Okay, that's a social security number for paying social security.
But apparently people are having terrible problems with them now because people have used this. People have come over and used the same address, like hundreds of people for the same address.
Oh, oh dear,
really,
right.
Yeah, so they're really sort of clamping down on it now.
Cracking down on that. And maybe that's why this question came into Munson's mailbag in the last couple of days. Where can I get the social security number? Thanks. Not from that address where 500 other people have got theirs, Paradise City.
Yeah.
I mean, I did mine at Finance. Oh, you can do it online. Have you done it online?
I haven't done it online. I'd already got one before that came in. But yes, you can do it online. But again, people are having terrible problems online because they put their details in and then the website comes back error.
That's not an unusual experience to have on a Portuguese government website. I did mine by going into Finanças in Alcobaça, and I think there's a video. I may have made a video about it. I forget what I haven't made videos about of my life here in Portugal, but I certainly have done it in real life. Whether I did a video afterwards, I can't remember. I'll search it for you, Paradise City. But I walked into the Finanças in Alcobaça with a letter that my accountant gave me, which was very helpful. And I was thinking, I might be in here for several hours. And it was really painless and wonderful. And I spoke Portuguese with a young lady in there. It was really great. Just handing over the letter was really a masterstroke, I think, with the accountant being specific about what was needed.
Yeah, probably a good idea. But most places, it's actually the Social Security office that you go to, not Finanças.
I do beg your pardon. You're absolutely right. It was a Social Security office in Alcobaça, which looks a lot like a Finanças office. But yeah, it's a Social Security office.
Yeah, they usually do. So
Yeah.
I think it was interesting going back to what James was saying about people moving. And it's one of the things that sort of over the years with friends and with work and different sort of people that I've said, you move your bricks and mortar, you can move as many times as you like, but the bricks and mortar will change, but your feelings won't, and you take all your issues with you. And the amount of people, and especially over the last 8 years, the messes I've had to sort out because they come over.
Yes.
What are you laughing at?
The messes I've had to sort out. It's just funny because it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, because people come over, their marriage is already in trouble.
Yeah.
They come over on a plane, and of course, then they get completely distracted for 12 months because they've got this new project and they're doing this and then they're doing that. And then after 12 months, of course, they've still got all the same issues.
Yes, that's right. And yeah, doing something big to save your marriage can be quite challenging. I remember my mum and dad, when they were attempting to save their marriage, started to run a pub together. In retrospect, probably not the best thing to do, mum and dad. Put yourself in a massively high pressure and novel situation, which is what I suppose migrating is as well, isn't it? So you have to be, you're going to find yourself together a lot. There is the Blitz spirit angle, isn't there? You and me, babe, against the rest of the world.
It's I mean, James would be able to tell you. Is it the trench mentality, in the trenches together?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, bonding.
All right, we're fighting this together, and and whatever. But the trouble is then, like you've said, getting your documentation for a year, 2 years, and then it's like, right, okay, we've done all that. Oh, we've still got each other.
Yes. Oops. 24 hours a day. That's probably the worst scenario, isn't it, Tig? Where people
absolutely, and that's the problem, isn't it? And I think as well, one of the things that I've talked about with friends as well, and again at work and whatever, is don't make permanent decisions on temporary emotions.
Oh, gem of advice this morning. And I mean, given the way the world is at the moment, there's probably quite a lot of that happening, but I was going to articulate a particular scenario which does happen in Portugal. There's the buying a pile of rocks in central Portugal. Our relationship's a little bit difficult, but no problem. We'll move from UK or US into the middle of nowhere in central Portugal on a renovation project, and we'll spend every hour of every day together struggling against the elements and rebuilding a house. What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. Of course it'll work.
It's going to be, and of course there will be exceptions. And good luck to you if you're trying that. And I hope it does give you that sort of trench mentality that Tig is talking about. And it is the making of you and your relationship. It's like when people have kids to say that's quite a high risk.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Over my head, that one. I mean, yeah, that's what you've just said. Let's just whack a great load of more pressure on, and sleepless nights as well.
Yes.
Have a baby.
They would need to be work. But, to be fair, the world is such a peaceful and wonderful place at the moment. You have got that going for you, haven't you? Not right. They would need to be working on the marriage in addition to getting all the administration. Everyone's like shivering with like, no, my ex used to make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. I think that's hit a chord. That phrase there, Tig, the permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Long story, I won't bore you. We'll have a drink one night and talk about that, Coach, if you want to. We just came back from closing up our house that we built 36 years ago in the US. Wow, realized we arrived in Portugal with happiness, momentum, and we're just rolling forward. Well, long may that continue, Sarah. And not to ignore the fun fact from earlier, I'm probably the only person you'll meet who's actually been paid for playing upon the Psaltery. Tig, what's playing upon the Psaltery? Okay, Sarah, you're going to have to give us a bit more. You've played the Sitan, or...
Oh, is it musical instrument?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing you're an accomplished musician and player with unusual instruments in unusual situations. But could you tell us a little bit more about the Psaltery? I did look it up. Oh, no, I didn't. I spelt it wrong. I looked for Sultan for some reason rather than Psaltery. Oh, a musical instrument having plucked strings of gut, horsehair, or metal stretched across a flat soundboard. Oh, my goodness. These are extraordinary things. You'll know exactly what it is if I am able to share a picture the psaltery. So you are a professional player of unusual instruments. Well done, Sarah. More fun facts, please put them on the screen for us and we shall share them. And yeah, 36 years, that must be quite poignant and, I guess a mixture of emotions. 36 years in one house there. Closing up, the end of a chapter, end of an era. Who doesn't like playing with unusual instruments? First thing the boys, stop it, coach. Right, post-Brexit Brits. You'd think I'd have said that enough times to get it right by now. And you as well, Tig. You've said post-Brexit Brit, I think, once or twice. What's going on? What's the update?
The update is there's two things that keep coming up as well. Basically, obviously, people rushed over to Portugal to get their EU residency in 2020. Got thousands of them, thousands of them. Well, of course, it's now 2025. So in 2025, people are perfectly entitled to, under the withdrawal agreement and by law and whatever, obviously withdrawal agreement is the law, but they are perfectly entitled to now their permanent residency. Once they're coming up to the 5 years. But what IMA are doing are saying that the date on the card of their withdrawal agreement biometric card, because of course we swapped everything for that, didn't we?
Yep.
They're saying that the 5 years goes from the date of the appointment on the card, which of course it doesn't, of residency.
Right.
Are you with me?
Yes, kind of.
Yeah. Well, your residency started when you got your EU residency in 2020.
Yes.
But of course, we didn't get our withdrawal agreement biometric cards until 2021, 2022.
Ah, okay.
So there, IMA is saying, oh, no, your card, doesn't expire for another 3 years or 2 years or 4 years. No. Right. But of course, people need the permanent withdrawal agreement biometric card to prove they have the additional rights under the withdrawal agreement.
Okay, so a little bit of a short-changing going on, possibly.
Again, it's down to staffing, isn't it? They haven't got the staff. They don't want to provide the staff to be able to do the cards. And you've got a card that's in date. And we said at the time, do not do this. Do not do this. But they didn't listen to us. And it's causing problems in quite a few countries over the EU because a few countries did the same.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
you make an interesting point there, and this does happen sometimes in a government office, doesn't it? Is you will be fobbed off possibly,
yes,
when people don't know what to do and might make something up on the spur of the moment. That's not unfair to say that, is it?
Absolutely not. No, it's not unfair at all. It's not unfair at all. People get, but that's, and I mean, I found this quite amazing. Is that people obviously will come onto British in Portugal and they'll put a post up saying, I was told this and I was told that, I know, but I've given them the documentation, and we actually have documentation on British in Portugal for exactly this scenario in Portuguese and English. So people can, but I do find this funny. People have actually come back to me and said, I hadn't got any documentation or anything, but I realise now that you've given, but I did say, Tig James said, and they've gone, oh, all right then.
Well, we used to have that. Do you remember we had that hashtag Tig says? So that still stands, everybody. That's amazing.
Oh my, I mean, I suppose it's worth a try, isn't it? But yeah, people have said that. I just said, oh, Tig, and they've gone, oh, okay then.
I'd love to see that scenario where in a government office someone says, well, Tig James said, and the person says, what? And they go to their manager and says, they're talking about Tig James. Just do it. Go, just do what they
amazed me. People, I mean, it was because people were refused EU residency. And I mean, we had a terrible time with that. And certain places around the country were they were horrendous. And but people were actually going in and saying that, and then they just keeled over. It was just
right. Very interesting indeed. Okay, so there is that then. And Mel saying, yeah, I got my residency September 2019, but my card shows 5 years only at the end of 2025. What to do about that? What go back and argue it out?
What you do, well, the thing is you need an appointment. So you have to email, because I mean, your permanent residency was due in September 2024, last year. Right. So there's two things to say about that. You know, email them and keep emailing them. You can try ringing, but we all know how that goes. And it's both the same, but you need just saying, I am entitled to permanent residency. I wish to have, because my residency started September 2019. I wish to have now my permanent withdrawal agreement biometric card. And the thing to always remember as well is you can apply 3 months before expiry.
Okay.
So you don't have to. When you'll get an appointment, who knows? You've got to apply. You know, you've got to. It's not, and please do not use in this scenario renewal. If you say renewal, you will get sometimes you'll get an email back. We've just had this scenario. I asked for a renewal of my withdrawal agreement biometric card, and they're sending me to the IRN office. Well, they do 4 renewals, but this isn't a renewal. This is an application for a permanent residency card.
Yes. Okay.
Application,
which is permanent and not eternal, because there's temporary and resident and temporary and permanent are also a distinction worth knowing about, which we've covered in the past. Anything else, Tig, that is persisting that people need to know about, especially post-Brexit Brits? But often what you say is of interest to other nationalities, of course, as well.
Absolutely, and this is of interest to others because and again, people are not understanding that if you're not an EU citizen, but you have residency in an EU member state, you have not got freedom of movement. You do not. If say I'd got residency in Greece, okay, that does not then entitle me to up sticks and move to Portugal.
You could be forgiven for thinking so, but if you do think about it, obviously it's not the same as the old days, is it?
No. There is a certain criteria where you can do it. It's incredibly difficult to do, though. And I don't know what the criteria is, but I remember reading up about it. But basically, people are saying, yes, I can. Yeah. And I remember one guy, he on a post on another group somewhere was, yes, I can. My lawyer has said. The times I have heard my lawyer has said, and it's just like, well, I'm really sorry, but it isn't true. You cannot do that. Anyway, and 3 times, right, go at me. And then he messaged me twice, and I just went, look, I'm not doing this with you. This is the 5th time I've now told you. You cannot do it. This conversation is now over, because all he was doing was ranting at me how wrong I was and all right, whatever, mate.
Because he needed to be right, didn't he?
And this is the thing with it. People, they think that if they keep asking me the same, I've had this countless times, same question again and again and again, my answer will change. It won't.
Yeah. Because you're an advisor based on your experience and facts rather than a magician, right? Is that fair to say?
I can't. Yeah, it's everything that I do is based on. Oh, you know, the law. The law says. But you're different. No, you're not. Yeah. You know, but it was interesting. He is the only person that has ever done this in all the years I've been doing it. He came back 5 days later and said, "Really sorry, you were right."
Wow, very good, excellent.
One person.
Oh, okay. So you're still due quite a few other apologies from many other people.
200, yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay. And on this matter of the law, what's interesting as well for Brits especially, I think, is being in a government office and being told something. Now, we've already made the point, haven't we, that they might just be saying something to get rid of you or fob you off, and it does happen. Portuguese people, I think, are more used to challenging the law, aren't they? And having a stand-up with somebody in a government office. We're not so, are we? Because we're foreign and we're British. It's a double blow. But it is worth remembering that, isn't it? That Portuguese people do kind of push back in a way that we're unaccustomed to on these matters or some similar matters.
But I think they push back because they have the knowledge.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Foreigners, we don't. We go, oh, is that right or not? And we've all done it, haven't we? When we
think it is right because a government official is saying, no, you can't do that. And it's like, oh, okay, sorry, I'll go then.
Yeah. And then you go away and find out you can.
Yes, so that is worth bearing in mind. Morning to you, Denise, this morning. Gemini was saying, one of the lucky ones, look, Tig, residency card for 10 years. It doesn't always happen. In our household, I think I got 5 and Mrs. M got 10 when she went. Oh, and the Saltery, Tig. Look, here it is. Would you like to see one?
Yeah.
Does that ring any bells, so to speak?
Okay. Yes.
Beautiful, isn't it? Okay. It doesn't ring bells. You pluck the strings, obviously. My first university degree was in music. I played pluck strings before 1750. Not many people can say that. It's not an easy thing to say, for that matter. Even hitchhike with a Greek lyre. Yes. A Greek lyre sounds like it sounds like an untrustworthy Athenian. A Greek lyre.
It does depend how you read that. I played pluck strings before 1750. Flip your old, mate.
That's right. Looking good, Sarah. Even hitchhike with a Greek lyre in an evening gown. Sounds like a holiday romance as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In an evening gown, funnily enough, turned out to be a lousy way to make a living. I'm sorry to hear that. And it sounds very Hawkwind and sort of progressive rock album as well, doesn't it? With those wonderful instruments that made a comeback on some of those recordings. Brilliant. Thanks, Tig, for being here. It's 9 o'clock, would you believe? Did you have we got something else to share? I think you might have just had a quick look at your notes there.
I was just thinking something, again, going back to what James was saying, about don't leave the country and go home for 2 years. I've heard that advice quite a few times, and I think it's correct.
Yeah.
You've made a decision, and if you keep going backwards and forwards, you're not really sort of letting go and giving what you've gone to a really, really good chance. And I think it's really, really good advice. The same as I remember when my dad died. I mean, I was only 20 when my dad died, and the doctor. I took my mum to the doctor. She was in a really, really bad way. And he said to her, do not make any major decisions for 5 years, because you will regret, because you'll make, again, permanent decisions on temporary emotions.
It's such good advice. It really is. It really is. Yeah.
And it's like when you get mad, isn't it? It's when you get angry. Oh, do you want to do this? I could do that. And it's a temporary emotion. Wait till you've calmed down and wait till you can stand back. All those sorts of things. But and she did. She sold the house. She sold the house 3 years later and massively regretted it.
Oh dear. Okay, so there you go. Great advice from both James and Tig this morning. Carnival person or not a carnival person? Did you go to Lulé?
No, I didn't, because of course it is about an hour away from me.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, I didn't. Not particularly.
No, okay. And
I could go, but not particularly.
Also in the Algarve, this probably is also 3 hours away from you. The Thinker, Thinker of Albufeira. What is going on? This is one of those new. Well, this is one of those statues that's made of the holy metal, I'll call it, and this is a new one in Albufeira. And I'm thinking, a thinker in our time in history would actually be saying that, wouldn't they? What a terrible time to be thinking too much about what's going on. Perhaps we need to be not making permanent decisions based on temporary emotions and just living our lives and having fun. Thank you very much, Tig, for being here this morning with your I'll say it correctly now, post-Brexit Brits, and see you again next month. That's the clip that we made last time, or the clip that I took from our conversation last time about should the UK re-enter the EU, has been very popular, as you might imagine, on the YouTube. I don't know if you've got any insights, given current world events, about.
Well, where do you even start?
Maybe we shouldn't.
No, it's. I mean, it's as if we are in the EU, isn't it? Let's be honest. Got all the European leaders.
Interesting. Yes. Yeah.
We're all met with Starmer, and yesterday, and I haven't actually managed to see the news today. But they're all had meetings and discussed what they're going to do. I mean,
just like the old days, wasn't it? Just like the old days, except without the same lineup and affiliations. Yeah. Amazing.
Of being an EU country.
Yeah, so quite extraordinary. Thanks, Tig. Have a great week. Have a great month, and enjoy your March. And we'll see you again in what comes after March, April. We'll see you again early April. Maybe it'll be the first. I don't know if that's the first Monday. We'll have some fun if it is, Tig.
If it is, then we're in trouble because I'm not here.
Okay, fair enough. We'll find out.
Sure, it isn't. We'll see.
Have a great month until we see you again. Thanks very much as well. I really appreciate it. Muito obrigado. Ciao, ciao. And we're going to have some carnival fun on the way out. See you again tomorrow morning.